All set?
Ta-da.
That's a yes. Stand by.
Yes.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show on this Monday, the 22nd of November. And the Joe and Joe Weather Show brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York, the tri-state area's largest supplier of rock salt and at the lowest prices anywhere in the New York City tri-state area and beyond. And also all the great snowmelt products like Pelledo and Mag ice pellets and flakes and shovels and snow blowers and you name it, they have it in order to get you through this upcoming winter. 631-756-1125 for the best prices around. OmniTrueValue.com is the website. Wholesale Holiday Lighting by Giannini, your complete holiday lighting specialist, meeting all your decorating needs, whether it's for having your home decorated for the holidays or maybe you are a home holiday lighting decorator and you go out decorating homes as part of your business. They have plenty of stock, and they're at 162 Ocean Avenue in Lindenhurst, New York, 631-957-5106, and the website is liholidaylighting.com. So, I guess being that the Northeast is now the tornado capital of the United States, it should come as no shock to you, Joe Rayo, that at 3 o'clock in the morning, there was a tornado warning that was issued for Essex County in southeastern Massachusetts. It was an EF0, and for the life of me, I mean, I looked back and looked at some of the obs from overnight, looked at the surface maps from overnight, and the upper air. I have no clue how it happened. None.
Are you sure?
Yeah, no, it's there. You can Google it.
I mean, maybe it was Essex County in Nevada.
No. It was
Oklahoma.
Essex County in southeastern Massachusetts. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. In northeastern Massachusetts, the tornado actually went out near Gloucester. Believe it or not, like the Gorton's fisherman.
Yes, I don't understand that either.
I'm serious. I looked. I mean, I looked. I was looking at conditions aloft. I mean, this was a simple cold front the end of November. We were, okay, it was in a warm sector with temperatures in the 50s and dew points that were lower than that. And the cold front was still miles and miles away. I don't get it. I don't know how. I honestly, I am perplexed here as to, and the thing is, SPC had no thunderstorm risk. Never mind any kind of severe weather risk. They had no thunderstorm risk at all.
Now, when did this happen, Joe?
At 3 o'clock in the morning.
3 o'clock in the morning. I'm looking at the technical discussion from the National Weather Service in Boston, and I don't see anything alluding to that. Lord only knows. I don't know what it could have been.
It was a very, very small spin up, whatever it was. But I've read a few pieces, so somebody said it was an EF0. So anyway, for those of you who are interested in trying to figure out the meteorology, I mean, I'll just show you. I did have the surface map up from overnight. I'll put it up on the screen. Hang on. So this was what it looked like on the surface map, and I mean it's. I'll get a little tighter here. I mean,
okay. Here's the 9:25 a.m. update.
Right.
From the National Weather Service in Boston. A brief, narrow line of torrential rainfall was crossing the outer Cape and Nantucket at mid-morning. This was associated with a prefrontal trough resulting in a narrow corridor of strong forcing coupled with uh, PWATS. That's precipitation. What is that, Joe? Water.
PWA. What was it? PWA what?
PWATS.
PWATS.
Exceeding 1 inch.
Oh, the P watts. That's that. You know that 700 to 400 millibar thing you always look at.
Yeah.
The P watts.
And this activity will exit the Cape of Nantucket within the hour. I guess that's what caused the tornado, the EF0 that was over Gloucester County
I'm
some
looking.
hours earlier.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the obs. I'm looking at the obs at 1 a.m. It was Portsmouth, Mass. Is southeast at 20, and there's there's a couple of southeast ice wind barbs along the coast
Precipitable water.
north precipitable water. There you go, north of Boston.
Right.
And then of course the winds inland go southwest. But it's a prefrontal trough. If there was a prefrontal trough, WPC certainly didn't analyze it on their map. I mean, they really have nothing.
Right.
Not a thing. And then if I go to the I hit the wrong button. Let me back up. If I go to the map at 4 a.m., I mean, there's a little, there's a bend in the isobar that's down across southern New Jersey. So I suppose, you'd probably have to draw a surface map that was much tighter than this to see, all the obs that we can't see here on these maps where you only see, a scattering of stations. But yeah, I mean, there's probably the hint of some sort of trough here that's running out ahead of the main cold front, which at 5 a.m. was still back at Syracuse to about Pittsburgh. So, but even so, it's not like you had some sort of powerhouse upper trough to set it off. I mean, you really didn't. I'm just shocked. I'm just shocked that you could have generated a spin up this late in the season, this far north.
Well, these things happen. I just checked also Albany and New York City, and they didn't even have any mention of this. So this was something that came literally out of the blue, and
Right.
must have been exceedingly localized, which it was, and very very condensed, if you will, or concentrated, if you will. So what else can I possibly say?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about this area here, so I just got it on. Just show you a map of Essex County. You can see there's Lowell, Mass, out to the west. Plum Island, the Massachusetts Plum Island, is to the northwest, and Gloucester sitting right out here. So, yeah, it really boggles my mind that something like this wound up happening tonight, but I'm sorry, last night at 3 a.m. But it's been a strange month. It really has. We've had probably about 20 years worth of tornadoes in one day in in uh, in the Northeast. Back a week or so ago, and we're still getting these cold fronts coming through. And by the way, here's on the satellite with the latest front. Now, finally, the cloud line has reached the coast and is moving offshore, so skies are going mostly clear, and it is dry all the way back to the west. But we do have some lake effect snows going on in parts of upstate New York, and most of the country showing relatively quiet weather. That's going to be pretty much the signature of the weather this entire week.
Thank you. Thank you. Somebody up there is listening to me. I mean, I said the last thing I wanted to see. First off, for all of you people out there who are going to be doing any traveling this getaway day Wednesday and through the holiday weekend, nothing major, nothing really significant. And also, of course, I'll be taking flight on Sunday night. And the last thing I wanted to see was any kind of a major nor'easter or major atmospheric atrocity, as you would say, Joe. But you're right. You're right. This week looks like a pretty quiet week overall. And let's hope it stays that way.
Yeah, weather systems moving along. There are no big lows running around anywhere, and that's good. By the way, I want to give a big welcome tonight to everybody that's watching the show. Welcome to the Joe and Joe Weather Show, and welcome to everybody that is on the chat board tonight. Barry Goldberg hitting the super chat tip jar already, saying this is a please make it snow this winter bribe, quote unquote. Well, it is November 22nd in the coastal areas of the Northeast. 9 Novembers out of 10, you don't see any measurable snow. So the fact that we will probably repeat that this year is not not any kind of surprise, really. Nor is
I
it
mean,
unusual.
we had snow. We had snow in 2018 in November. Was that the November
Right,
15th storm?
2018. Then you have to go back, I think, to 2012 wait, I'm sorry. When was Sandy? 2012, right?
Right,
Yeah, so you
right.
have to go back to November of 2012. We should also point out, by the way, that it's places in northern New England have not seen their first inch of snow yet, particularly in Maine. Most of Maine has not seen any measurable snow. And then to add to that, let's go west and talk about the fact that Denver is a full month behind their measurable snowfall. The first measurable snowfall average date is around October 21st, and we're now, excuse me, we're now at November 22nd, and they still have not gotten their first zero.1 inch of snowfall. So you're not alone, folks. And Joe, I really believe, by the way, that a lot of this has to do with the fact that we saw no snow cover growth in Canada during the month of October. None.
Well, you need that. You need the snow cover. Now, I must tell you that I was looking at the 10 millibar map, centered, of course, on the polar regions a little while ago, and I made the comment to Renata. I said, it looks to me, and I don't want to hurt anybody out there who is a winter weather lover or snow lover, but I think it's going to turn pretty darn warm around here when we get to the end of the first week of December. I mean, I'm seeing the same kind of pattern that we saw during late October, early November, where there was hardly any kind of height line or atmospheric
Right.
line across much of Canada. I mean, it looks like Joe. It looks like it's so wide open. There's no sign of any colder air that's coming this way after we get into the early stages of December. It looks like it's going to be a real warm up. At least that's what I think.
No, I don't disagree with you. We have lots changed in the last week from how the teleconnections have set up, the polar vortex is setting up. Um, I'm not. I guess I don't know if I want to say I'm disappointed because kind of was looking at things and thinking that we were going to go into December and be in a good spot for maybe some snow chances, and maybe we still will be down the road. But there are a couple of things that are going on in the atmosphere that say otherwise. Owen Polar wants to know, why do you need the snow cover? Well, if you don't have snow cover in Canada, you cannot generate quality cold air, plain and simple. The cold air masses coming down from northern Canada will modify rather quickly. The snow cover slows that modification progress quite a bit, and then we reach a certain point in the winter season, you start making cold air masses over that snow cover. So not having it in October means that you don't have cold enough air masses to bleed down into the United States in order to create situations where you get these pockets of accumulating snow mostly in the northern tier of the United States. But that didn't really happen this year. It just didn't, because you didn't have that quality of cold air because of the fact that you didn't have that snow cover. Excuse me, folks, because I just want to say this cold is driving me crazy. Just to let you know, and I apologize for the occasional cough.
You don't have to apologize, Joe. This is to be expected at this time of the year. We all
Yeah,
are coming down.
I have not. I don't think I've had a cold in like 3 or 4 years. So this is hitting me especially hard.
Well, what den of germs were you spending time in?
Right. Well, I wasn't around my grandson, so it couldn't have been them.
Yeah,
You know how little kids are.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Ken Musillo hitting super chat tonight. Thank you, Ken. Hitting the super chat tip jar. Most appreciated. Thank you very much. Yeah, there's a couple of things that I was looking at, and let me see if I saved it. Yes, I did. I just want to show folks something. Now, there's a Facebook page called Ill Snow, and it's run. I don't Darren, and I forgot his last name. I apologize, Darren. I'm just trying to give you a plug here. But he has he's very big on snowmobiling up in the Adirondacks, and he also has a weather group on uh, on Facebook. And he posted this morning, and he makes the point, and it is a darn good one in terms of what's going on in the atmosphere. And if Alfred Phillips from Wainwright, Alaska, were on the chat board tonight, and he may very well be at some point, but he would let us know how cold it has been in Alaska recently. Well, take a look at these anomalies. Excuse me. For the next 10 days to 2 weeks over Alaska and in northwesternmost Canada. It is below normal. We are now 5 days into this. So this is from now through this coming Sunday. And now we're into the middle part of next week. And now, as I keep rolling this along, we're past day 10, day 11, day 12, and finally you start to see that below normal being eaten away to some extent in the last days of this long range, which goes out 16 days, although there's still some pockets of below average temperature. But he made the point when the teleconnections set up that Alaska has below normal temperatures for long periods of time. Those teleconnections are not favorable for persistent cold. When you have persistent cold up in Alaska, you cannot have persistent cold in the eastern part of the United States. The setup of the upper air that gives Alaska persistent cold is one that gives transitory cold to the eastern part of the United States, and that's a very valid point. And looking at the next almost 2 weeks, that persistent cold in Alaska is going to continue. Now, some of that cold air is going to break away and try to come down, but until we can get rid of this persistent cold pattern that's up in the great state of Alaska, we're going to continue to deal with these transitory. It gets cold for a few days and then it warms up for a day or so, and then it gets cold for a few days and then it warms up. You get a cold front in between each one. Maybe you get some showers as those front goes by. Maybe the major media networks will take any one of those weak cold fronts and describe it as a major destructive storm. But other than that, you really aren't going to be able to see much out of it.
Well, from what I'm looking at, Joe, first of all, I think we're going to have a relatively mild uh, Thanksgiving. That looks like the
Yes.
story for later this week, and then we are going to turn much colder. Well, maybe not much colder, but noticeably colder, significantly more cold as we get into Saturday. So we're going to make a transition from mild on Thursday, Thanksgiving, to colder for Saturday, and then another round of cold weather coming our way about the middle of next week. Monday through about Wednesday of next week, the 29th of November, into, dare I say, next week, we will be into December, the second day of December. And then, as I said, after that, I think we're going to start warming things up, and we're going to have another spell of rather mild temperatures here. Again, now we're looking now like 15 days down the road, folks,
Right.
and you got to take that with a grain of salt. But I think by about the 7th or 8th of December, we could be, really mild. And Joe, you got on the screen here the 10 millibar map centered on the pole, and you could see that as we wind our way toward, let's say, 360, 374, 384 hours. You look at all of that blue, and also you look at the height lines, how they begin to space out, and really there's nothing to work with by the time we get to around the 6th, 7th, 8th of December.
Yeah.
And not just across the United States, but even across Canada. So
yeah, I mean, this at the polar vortex level, you're getting that polar vortex after it pulled away from Siberia at the end of October and then dropped down into northern Canada, northern Greenland, which is where we start out. It just basically starts to migrate back northward over the pole and back toward the north coast of Siberia, and then kind of pivot around, pivot where the troughing that's in the eastern part of the United States just kind of lifts up. Yeah, if you look at that upper flow, I mean, at best, what you could say is that we're on maybe the southern edge of all of this. Now, the one thing that I would say is something that is for those of you who are looking for some, some sort of bright spot here is the fact that the polar vortex remains very amorphous. It's very spread out. It's not this tight wrapped up little ball. So it's probably subject to more movement and more change as we move through the month of December. So it's not like it's going to wrap itself up over the Arctic regions and just keep all the cold air locked away in northern Canada and in the Arctic regions. That it's spread out, I think, argues that you might have some breakaway cold air masses that may try to move into the U.S., but at best, they would move into maybe southeastern Canada, New England. You get some cold air that might bleed down a little bit further southward for a day or two in the mid-Atlantic states. But in terms of widespread cold air, you're not gonna, widespread persistent cold. You're not going to get it with that kind of setup in the upper atmosphere.
And if you want to hand off the share screen button, I can show you what Climate Prediction Center is saying for these coming days ahead.
You're all set.
All righty, so let's.
And I got to put you on the screen, so give me a second here. Okay, right. You're good to go.
So here we are, and I'm going to just widen the screen up for my own benefit over here. And so let's look at the temperatures first for the 28th of November to the 2nd of December. Whoops, well, that's a little bit too close. So we'll back off a little bit here. And you can see, Joe, that for all of the folks who want cold weather, the Climate Prediction Center is indicating that across the Atlantic seaboard, below normal probability or the probability of below normal temperatures is going to be the rule from the 28th to the 2nd of December.
Which makes sense, by the way, because when you look at today's run of the models, the cold that comes in this weekend and then the reinforcing shot that's behind it takes us through Thursday, December 2nd. It's after that we'll start warming up.
Right. And in fact, as I said a few minutes ago, I'm looking for a real chill down again from Monday, the 29th of November to about Wednesday, the 2nd of December, that we are looking for some colder. And this zone here, this shade of blue is indicative of about, I think, 60 to 70%. Is that what?
Yeah, that's what it looks like, 60 to 70.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes. No, actually, it looks like 70 to 80.
70 to 80.
Am I counting? Am I looking at counting? Wait a minute. Near normal, that would be 33 to 40. Then this is 40 to 50, 50 to 60, right? 60 to 70. So this is 70 to 80.
No, I think that whatever color that is, there's your near normal, 33
right
to 40, 40 to 50, 50 to 60, 60 to 70.
Right, near normal, 33 to 40. Yeah, you're right. You're right. So it's 60 to 70. That's still they're indicating a 2 out of 3 chance, basically, that it is going to be below normal or below normal temperatures 28th of November to December the and you look at this, Joe. Take a look at this. It looks like the country is in a real dry spell, other
Yeah.
than the far northwest, Seattle, for example. They're going to be above normal, but everywhere else, it is below normal, near normal. Let's see. This would be, again, this is 33 to 40, 40 to 50, 50 to 60. That's
Mm-hmm.
down where you are, Joe.
Yes,
It looks like you're going to be pretty darn
dry. Yeah, darn dry. And by the way,
Yeah.
while you were, on the temperature side, Alaska was below normal through all of this, and also on the precip side, precip is below normal. So even for snow lovers, it's cold and dry,
It's
or
amazing.
below normal anyway. It
It
doesn't
really is.
necessarily means
Well,
dry, but
let's take a look at the 8 to 14 day temperature outlook. And here, not much better. In fact, if anything, that area of above normal in the west kind of expands like a balloon outward. So now no longer below normal. We are looking at only near normal for the time frame from November 30th to December the 6th. And as far as precipitation is concerned, we are looking at, or they are looking at, near normal here in the Northeast, and still somewhat drier than normal. If you go, let's say, west of New Jersey, across Pennsylvania, central and western New York, and then down into the southeastern United States below normal, and below normal here, and still above normal. If you want to get wet, the place to be is over in the Pacific Northwest. Alaska, near to below normal in terms of precipitation, Joe.
yep. And take a look at I got the NAO up. If you want to switch back, we could put that up on the screen. Take a look at the NAO now.
Yes.
Consider, folks, how much that's changed in the last week and how volatile it can be. You think it's going to be stuck in one spot for a while. Guess what? This is based on the 0Z runs from last night. All of a sudden, almost, but not quite all, but the vast majority of the members are not only positive, but they are as much as 2 standard deviations positive on the NAO after December 2nd or 3rd. And that tells you now, until it goes positive, while we're in this negative state, we're getting this, if you want to call it a longer persistent stretch, starting from the cold front that passes later on Friday and taking us through next Thursday. We're going to have a stretch of below average temperatures. Well, that's when the NAO hits its, goes negative here during this week to set that up. And then we'll be rallying up to the neutral line and getting there by December 1st, and then going to +2 by December 2nd or 3rd. And when your NAO is positive, there's no blocking nature to the atmosphere, so everything is moving at a reasonable rate from west to east. And the teleconnections on the PNA are not really all that inspiring either. While they're in a positive state now, they're going to drop to the neutral line on December 2nd, and then they go slightly negative. There's one member that goes almost 2 standard deviations negative, but most of them are either slightly positive or slightly negative. So we'll kind of go with where the majority are. But again, this begs to what I said with respect to the overall pattern. Cannot get persistent cold with the way the teleconnections are set up. And it's also a good lesson to know that when we look at these things on the day-to-day basis, you got to bear in mind that the one thing that is constant with these teleconnections in the longer range outlooks is that they're going to change. We see it staying negative for days and days and days as we go to the outlook period. And then I remember joking about the fact on the air as well, we'll check this tomorrow in case it's changed, something along those lines. And lo and behold, the next day, all of a sudden, the NAO, which was negative as far as the eye can see, suddenly flips over to positive. I mean, that's just the nature of the models. There's just so much going on that they can't seem to grasp what is happening. And take a look here, by the way. I'm just going to run over the nature of the change when you look at the upper air, starting with uh, this week. Now, we do have this blocky high that's south of Greenland, uh, between the southern tip of Greenland and the Azores. And, we talked about the fact last week that, if anything, that blocky high is just too far south and east. But that's holding us that's holding troughing here in the eastern part of the United States. So we do get something coming down out of that northern jet on Friday, this new deep trough, and that hangs around until the ridge out in the Atlantic weakens. And that holds on with a reinforcement that comes around on Wednesday with the last shot of the cold air. And then after that, there's no ridge anymore out in the Atlantic. So guess what? The trough gets to pull out, a ridge builds into the east, and, the upper air is just ew. It's got some weak troughing in the east around Saturday and Sunday, December 4th, 5th, and then another ridge builds into the east during the week of December 6th. And now we're at December 8th on the last day. The one thing that I'm just looking at this, the one thing that does change up in Alaska toward the latter part of the forecast period, you do have this deep upper low that's up there that's creating all this persistent cold. Well, that is eventually being replaced by a strong ridge in the upper atmosphere toward the end of the forecast period. Maybe that changes things downstream as we move into the second or third week of December. I don't know, but we'll have to watch for changes up there in order to figure out what's going to be changing down here.
Adam Lowe on the chat board says that this just reminds me of December 2019. The NAO and the AO went positive December 1st and then stayed there all winter. But Adam, let me remind you also that on the very first day of that month of December, there was a massive snowstorm over the northeastern United States. We did have cold, and we did have, in fact, Albany, if I remember correctly, had something like 23, 24 inches of snow.
Well, now you're talking about the Binghamton snowboard. Binghamton got 40.
No. That was last year.
That was 2019 you're talking about. Okay, right, in 2020. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Right, 2019 December started off with a major snowfall, and Albany did pick up about 2 feet of snow. We didn't have snow or any significant snow down here, but it was cold. And so I'm not sure whether or not that storm, and I don't have the maps in front of me, whether or not that storm kind of shuffled or reshuffled the deck and put us in that pattern that Adam Lowe is saying, that right after that, the NAO and the AO went positive. And if you remember, the AO, the Arctic Oscillation, was incredibly off the charts in a positive direction.
Yes.
Right on through January. So I'm not saying that this is what's going to happen again or what is projected to happen again, because again, come early next week, there are no big snowstorms, and there's really no tremendously cold outbreak here in the Northeast. We're working basically with not much of anything. The cupboard is almost bare. So and it's going to stay bare, it looks like, Joe, right until at least the middle part of December.
Well, it does seem that way, at least for now. Meantime, just looking at the surface, we have this shot of cold air for Tuesday that pulls out most of the United States. I mean, there's just a couple of pockets here and there that we're seeing some snows in and around the northern Rockies, in and around the lakes tonight in upstate New York. Nothing especially exciting. Then here's your warm up for Thursday with the high off the South Carolina coast and the next cold front, which by Thursday evening is still not quite to Buffalo. You have a low on the eastern shores of Lake Huron and the front that goes down through Mississippi into Louisiana. That swings eastward with some showers Friday morning. The front's offshore. Friday, Joe, I think in terms of timing, is going to probably be just like what we went through today. Showers come in overnight. They move out in the morning. The cold air comes in later in the afternoon. And then Saturday and Sunday, cold and dry. You get a reinforcement. There's a little bit of a reinforcement that comes in Sunday afternoon. Looks like there's a weak cold front there that brings a shot of slightly colder air Sunday night into Monday morning. And then that lifts out, and then another reinforcement comes down with a cold front on Tuesday night. You see it there in upstate New York, and that brings another shot of reinforcement into the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states for Wednesday into Thursday. And then once that pulls out, we warm up. There's a weak front that follows on Saturday. Yeah, this is just, you look at this, Joe, it's such a mess. The model does try to have some kind of major storm in the lakes on this run around December 7th or 8th. What is that, a 979? So the only thing we know for sure is that the next run, this storm will not be there. So bear that in mind.
Well, yeah, there's always that tendency that the 0 and the 12Z runs say one thing, while the intermediate runs, the 6 and the 18, live in their own special world. And yeah, I have a feeling that what you're seeing there on the 18Z is it going to be there when we run the 0Z in a very short while.
Yeah, I think the frustrating part was it yesterday. I think yesterday the 18Z yesterday had this incredibly cold pattern developing across the United States after day 11 and 12. And I mean, it was just it was crazy. And someone messaged me about it. And I said, well, the only thing, I said what I just said. The only thing you know for sure about this is the fact that it's not going to be there on the next run. And sure enough, it wasn't there on the next run.
It's not. It's gone. Bill Kennedy on the chat board saying, happy Thanksgiving to all of you weather fans. Hey, Bill, here's a riddle. Why did the turkey break up with his girlfriend? And the answer, he couldn't get to first base.
Oh, God help. You know, you really have a lot of nerve saying a joke like that when I spent the entire afternoon making cornbread croutons from scratch.
Oh, my God.
Okay.
Ah. And you're going to sprinkle them on your... You're going to sprinkle them on the dressing on Thursday?
They're going in the stuffing. I made the cornbread croutons from scratch. Should mention too the chairman hitting the super chat tip jar tonight. Thank you, Scott. Most appreciated and always appreciated. By the way, I'm sorry, I've just got a wave of sinus that just rolled through me. Anyhow,
well, here's the question, Joe. Do we have a Briller Jeopardy tonight, or can we just sign off and let you go hack
away
with some hack away off air or whatever?
We do have one. So let's go through it. I'm still alive. What was the? We are now back to New York City Central Park records. What was the highest and lowest temperature ever recorded in Central Park during the month of December?
You know, I seem to remember that we had not too long ago, several years ago, we had a spell around Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, where it was in the 70s. Now, if I can only remember what year that was, could it have been 2015?
You don't need the
year. I just need the temperature, right?
Right.
I'll say 70. I'll say 72, and I think it was either Christmas Eve or Christmas Day in the last 5 or 6 years.
Yeah. Well, remember last year I think we were in the 70s on Christmas Eve. The highest was right. The highest, excuse me, for the month was 75 in 1998. Wow. So I would think that was. I have to go back and specifically look at where in the month it was. But 75 in 1998. The lowest.
The lowest temperature, low. Now, if it were really cold, it would have to be like 19. We had a really frigidly cold winter in 1918, I think, or 17.
And I'm going to stop you there because the temperature that he has on here, I believe, is incorrect because it's actually lower than that February 1934 low of minus 15. So he's got, he had the answer as minus 17 in 1917. I'm thinking maybe he means minus 7.
Minus 7 because the coldest at Central Park was minus 15.
Right. So it
And that
can't
was
be
in
minus
February.
17. So I'm going to say it's -7. So you get a pass on that, Mr. Rayo.
Oh, all right.
What was the lowest daytime high in Central Park in December?
Oh, in December. In December,
Right, and it would correspond with that day in 1917. So use the
I
-7 as your guide.
yes. Well, I'll say 12.
Two,
Two.
two,
Wow.
two.
Wow.
Not
Can you
one,
imagine having a high of
not three,
but
two.
but two? Well, you remember in 1980, Joe, that the temperature in the overnight hours of Christmas Eve into Christmas
Yes, I
morning
remember that.
dropped precipitously. And I remember I was working that day at a private weather office, which will go nameless since I not don't particularly care for them anymore. But but I remember that we had brilliant sunshine that day, blue skies, brilliant sun. It was 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and the temperature was 7 degrees. So I could believe it too.
Yes. I went to a midnight mass that night at St. Benedict's. It actually snowed. We had about a coating to an inch of snow that night. Um,
Wow.
that ahead of the cold air when it came rushing in, and then yeah, the bottom fell out the next morning. It was -2.
Yes.
What was the most snow to fall in the entire month?
Oh, didn't we just have that recently? We had a spell in the last 10 or 12 years where I think we set the record for December, January, and February in terms of overall snowfall. And I think in December we had one month where we had something like some ridiculous figure like 28 or 29 inches of snow.
Yeah, I'm going to say that was either 2009 or 2010, but they were shy. They were shy of the 30.2 inches that fell in the month of December 1947, and up
When
until recently, the storm that produced 26 of those inches and was the all-time big snowstorm producer. That was back on December 26, 1947. And by the way, it was
right.
unforecasted.
Yes. Yes. It was one of those that and you know what? Those who remember that storm, it really wasn't a blizzard. It was a storm where we had all of that snow, and the snow came straight down. There was no horizontal snow, and the temperatures weren't too far from freezing. So it was a very heavy and maybe a semi-wet snow that fell on that day after Christmas in 1947.
Okay, here's your bonus question. Since 1869, Joe, how many Decembers recorded no measurable snow? No, nada, null, naught, zero,
I
nothing, goose egg. Um, what?
we've had
How many?
we've had one of those in the last, I think, 10 years. I think that was the same year that we had the 70 plus degree temperatures. I think that happens. Let's see, 150, and I'll say it's like a 20, once every 20-year occurrence. So we get that the 20 and I'll say 7 times,
The answer is three times.
three
Three
times.
times. 1877, 2006, and 2011.
Right.
And
And
and also the second bonus question is only two snowstorms in December produced at least 20 inches. What were the 2 years? Now we already mentioned one of them, 1947. When was the next one?
I don't know, was the one that the so-called Bloomberg blizzard in 2010, was that
20,
one of the
2010 is the correct answer.
yeah.
I always forget the Boxing Day storm. Was that in 2009? Because we had back-to-back years of big snowstorms in December. Um, and I'm thinking one of them was the Boxing Day blizzard, but I always confuse whether it's '09 or 2010. which one of those was the
Yeah.
Boxing Day. But either way, 2010 is the correct answer.
Isn't that amazing? That was and we saw that coming. And I remember the Daily News, the front page of the Sunday Daily News said, "Get ready for a massive snowstorm." And I think the mayor was in Bermuda, and nobody knew what to do in his absence. And that was like the equivalent of
Yeah, I
the
think that.
Lindsay storm of
Yeah, I
'69.
think that was the Boxing Day storm that where Bloomberg
Yeah.
was in Bermuda, while the rest of us were not in Bermuda. Let's just phrase it that way.
And you have to give the man credit for sticking to his guns, because even in the aftermath of a 20-inch snowstorm, when he finally came back to New York, he said things like, come on, it isn't a lot of snow, go out, see a show, whatever. And somebody
Right.
actually asked him, said, would you have declared a snow emergency? He says, no, I don't think I would. I mean, give him credit for being obstinate to the bitter end with
Yeah.
that particular storm.
All right, so 2009 was not the Boxing Day. It's 2010 was the Boxing Day because
Right.
I pulled the map up. I'll just put it on the screen for everybody to see. All right, hang on a second. Wrong button here. Oh, God. Now we got it. It's hard enough to switch a show, but when your ears are plugged up, it's even worse. But this is the storm from 2009. It was December 19th, 20th. And I'll just run it back on the previous map. You can see how it's already deepening near Cape Hatteras, North Carolina, and then just kind of rolls up through what we call the box as a wrapped up occluded cyclone. And by Sunday morning on the 20th, the low was southeast of Cape Cod, and temperatures behind it were in the teens and low 20s. Now, if we jump to 2010, there's a tighter view here. Yeah, nice and cold there in the east. You had a nice Arctic high sitting north of Lake Superior with temperatures in the minus 20 to minus 30 range. So it was a pretty good setup. And if we jump to 2010, and we can show that. That was on the Boxing Day storm because I was working that day. And you can take a look at it here. Yeah, I was at PIX that night. So here it is, already a 92 low offshore of Hatteras. You had temperatures in the teens and 20s on that Sunday morning. And we'll roll the maps along, and the low just deepened like an animal. And it got to a 978 low east of Cape May, south of Montauk by Sunday evening, and just kind of sat there and actually pivoted back northwestward during the evening hours, and then just kind of, did a, bit of a cycloidal looping motion that starts to slowly coil its way northeastward, 972 southeast of Montauk at 10 o'clock that night. Still sitting there until the next morning when it was starting to approach Nantucket. And of course, still seeing some snow reports even then at 4 a.m. on the morning of the 27th. So this is the storm that Bloomberg, coming after Thanksgiving, and coming after Christmas, and Christmas was on a Saturday that year. You probably wouldn't have needed a state of emergency if only because of the fact that everybody was, home on a long holiday weekend anyway. So, see, I'm coming to Mr. Bloomberg's defense here.
But nobody seemed to know, who was in charge and who needed to tell the sanitation department, get on out there. But that's history now, Joe. That's 11 years ago.
Yep.
And it doesn't look like it's going to be happening. It doesn't look like anything like that is going to be happening in the immediate or foreseeable future. So
no, not in the short range. Not in the short range.
No.
All right,
Exactly.
let's wrap it up here because I'm losing it. So, everybody, have a great night. Thanks for being here tonight. Thanks for those of you who hit the super chat tip jar. Most appreciated as always. And Joe and I will see you tomorrow night at 7:30 Eastern Time. Nighty night, everybody.
Au reservoir.